Hello, I'm Scott from the Centurion, and I'm joined today by Lizzie from Rose and Jones and John, the Scented Snowdrop, and collectively we are known as From Every Angle. Now, we have been doing a collaboration of the House of Angelos Creations Olfactives, and we are on episode number 5 now. This is the little sample set that we all sent away for and received, obviously. And the fragrance that we are doing today is Danse Lascive, a beautiful coloured juice. I don't know if you can see that at all. A beautiful golden colour. Danse Lascive, loosely translated, means dirty dancing. Now, this is a rose dominant fragrance, and there is heaps and heaps of rose in here. You can really smell the naturals in this. Now, when I first sprayed this, I was taken aback. I was quite surprised as to how animalic it was, and it smelled indolic to me. Now, I was expecting in the notes for there to be something like jasmine in there, but there isn't. In the notes I only read there's geranium and several rose oils. I'll get to the notes in a little while, but it took me a couple of wearings to then start to appreciate what the animalics are doing in this, and they really do lift that rose and give it more life, if you will. It makes it become a real breathing rose. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, the notes in this are dark rose, geranium, saffron tincture and white birch. Then in the heart there is rose damascena absolute Bulgaria, then there's suede tobacco absolute Bulgaria, then there's animalic notes, and then in the base there is leather olibanum, cedarwood atlas, hyraceum, civet, vetiver java, oak moss absolute and labrador absolute. Now, there's a greenness to it which you'd expect from something with so much naturals in, with lots of different rose oils, but I think that might well be coming from the geranium as well, a slight sharpness to it. You pick up later on an oak moss, a mossy effect to it. I don't necessarily pick up tobacco or anything in it, but there is an amberiness later on, and when it dries down in the far dry down, it almost becomes like a skin accord, if you will. Not a dirty skin or anything like that, not sweaty or anything, just a warmed skin, and it really is a beautiful creation. The birch in there you do pick up, but it's not overly done, so it's not too bitter. It's still got that tar effect, but it's in the background and still, like I say, helping the other, like the rose and the geranium, just come to the forefront. It's almost like if you imagine a wall of different coloured Lego, and they're all different notes, but together they make that one big wall, and this is what that is, and you need to give it time. You can't just smell it first off, because you'll dismiss it and you'll be losing out. It's a fantastic fragrance. But that is Danse Lascive by Angelos Creations Olfactives. I shall now hand you over to the wonderful Lizzie. Take it away.
Hi guys, welcome. Thank you so much, Scott. So as Scott has already pointed out, this is indeed our fifth episode of the Angelos Creations Olfactive sample set, where we're discussing obviously each sample from every angle. So we're on sample number 5. We still have 4 more to go from this set. See, today we have Danse Lascive. I read that as Danse Lascive. That's how it's coming out naturally, so I'm going to stick with it. And as Scott pointed out, it's roughly translated into dirty dancing. Both times I've sprayed this, my immediate reaction both times was whoa, because it's such a bold opening. Like a lot of these Angelos fragrances do, they have such a impactful opening. Like Angelos does throw in so much into his fragrances to make them as complex and interesting and as much character as possible. My impression was that this is a dirty chypre. That's how my mind recognised it. I get a chypre or sheep quality in this. I guess I'm getting a lot of oak moss, and I'm getting a lot of other ingredients wrapping around the oak moss. It's certainly animalic, that's for sure. In the opening, it's when I said it's wow, it's a lot of notes that are at their sharpest and boldest angle. I get a really sharp, bright green, vibrant chypre style, like very, very green, slightly soapy, really, really bold. But there's an underlying undercurrent of something very dirty, and something dirty just sort of behind it. And I quite like the opening. I like how it comes at you, and I like that I get this chypre quality. It makes my mouth water for some reason. Once the opening calms down, the chypre style element of this sort of steps back. It does sort of fade out a little bit, and the animalic side swoops in. Well, not swoops, it steps forward more, it comes forward more. The animalic qualities, and actually what is quite a woody quality, it softens, it plateaus, and it makes it easier to identify things. And that's where I thought to myself, there's leather in this. And it's a dirty leather, but there's also a smoothness, a beautiful smooth wash of different things. It's like a very tight union of a lot of woody animalic notes. Satisfying, and it's quite pleasing because it's very well balanced with what was this kind of soapy green chypre, slightly floral quality. This definitely has an old school vibe to it. An old school as in sort of 1980s, 1990s old school chypre. I just keep going back to this chypre quality, but that's what I pick up on. Going into the notes, which Scott obviously read them all out for us. Once you start reading all the notes, I feel like I can pick every single thing out, despite how extremely blended it is. Oak moss, I definitely pick up on that. You've got a lot of animalic qualities. Saffron tincture, yes, because it's dry, it has that dry spicy feel. One thing I don't pick up on, interestingly, is rose. And yet there's rose Demantia absolute in the heart and dark rose in the opening. Why can't I get the rose? I would say there was a more of a soapy white floral, but I don't pick up on it as being a rose. There's something addictive about it. It's quite concentrated in some ways, but also so smooth and balanced as well. So there's a lot of satisfaction from this scent. I think it's the way it's been made. I think it's the notes that have gone in. This is not my usual style of fragrance. Yes, I like the chypre on occasion, but not a dirty one. I mean, yes, it's dirty, but not in a grubby way. So with Danse Lascive being translated into Dirty Dancing, I get the dirty side at least. I get the, well, actually, I get the dirty dancing. Dirty is in those animalics, definitely. And I guess there is a dance among the notes. But do I like this? I actually really do. I do really like it. I think it's incredibly satisfying. Kind of both clean and dirty. Dirty animalics, clean soapy green chypre. As with all I've found so far from Angelos' creations, they all start off punchy and hearty and full of beans, mellowing down into a very classy, classic, stunning fragrance. I mean, regardless of what sex you are, there is a market for more feminine leaning fragrances and a market for more masculine leaning fragrances. This would sit on the masculine side. I find it satisfying to sniff from the bottle, really satisfying. And I love the opening. As it dries down, I'm not quite sure if I vibe with it, but it is beautiful nonetheless. Now I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Mr. Jon Snow, our infamous northerner, north of the wall. I think there's some qualities in here I think he'll really enjoy it, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he thinks about this one.
So, thanks Scott and thanks Lizzie. I will get into kind of how I differ from them two folks after. I'll just give you kind of a brief introduction of what I got for this one. So to me it opens with a dark, very smoky rose, and I'm guessing that could be from the birch. The geranium on me is very herbaceous in the background, and I kind of get the sharpness from the saffron. And then it moves into this smoky rose, and then to me I get quite a lovely rough leather. It's like a biker guy leather, like, you know, a big burly bearded biker covered in tattoos carrying you a bunch of roses. Also, I find this quite unique actually as far as a rose goes. I get a bit of a hint of diesel in there, like diesel petrol. That could be because I'm imagining bikers, or it might well be there from the greenness. The rose, the way it's blended for me with the saffron and the geranium, does stay a little sharp, which is kind of a contrast to the leather, and it's quite nice actually. And after a couple of hours, the dark smokiness and the dark leather is kind of what it's all about to me. It is like, again, snuggling into this bearded biker who's got you a bunch of roses, and he's probably been rolling about in the roses. It is very nice, and to me, I don't really get much of this kind of animalic touch. Maybe like a hint of a nice sweat, if that makes sense. But that's ultimately what I got. So I don't know. Sometimes it's like we're all smelling three different fragrances, isn't it? Scott kind of got a bit more of the geranium, and he got more of the rose, which I kind of got. But then Scott didn't really mention the leather, which obviously Lizzie mentioned the leather. But then Lizzie kind of found it much greener and kind of mossy, which not really for me. There was a bit of greenness, but I kind of took that from the geranium and that. Who knows? You know, this is why it's so much fun to kind of do it between us three. Because of all of our different experiences and our different noses, and maybe my broken nose, we all get, well, it depends which order we go in, but we all generally get quite very different, I'd say, very different experiences. Sometimes I think it's impossible for us not to be influenced by what the others have said, and maybe notice things that we didn't notice to start off with. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a really nice fragrance, this one. I'm not going to waffle on for the sake of it. But regarding something Lizzie said, and Lizzie knows me, it's funny again, it's down to personal kind of tastes and experiences and what we find attractive. Lizzie described this as quite masculine, and now I did describe a big burly bearded biker guy, but I would love this on a woman. I'd find it very, you know, very sort of punchy, seductive, unique kind of statement making one. So yeah, it just goes to show, doesn't it? Anyway, that's me finished. Enough waffling. I shall pick the next one next. Thanks, folks. Bye. So all that's left is to choose the next one. That we'll be doing in a few weeks. AJ. And who's better to do it than the Queen? Here she comes. And she's picked that one. That one is a Prey Cologne. So that will be the next one that we shall be doing coming up soon. Starting with me, I believe, innit? So alright, thanks folks. Bye.